Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hello everyone, and welcome to Work in Progress, the Personal Productivity Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I am your host, Joanna. Let's get started. Hi everyone, my name is Joanna and welcome back to Work in Progress, a place where we talk all things productivity. So what we've got lined up on today's episode is career decision making, and specifically we will be looking at the psychology of career decision making and understanding our motivations and productivity better. And our special guest today to help me unpack this topic is Anissa Brown. Anissa joins us from the United States, where she is an alumni from the University of Arizona and now a career/business coach after continuing her education and training in career coaching, executive coaching, resume writing, motivational interviewing, and heaps more, which I'm sure she'll talk to us about as well. Hi, Anissa. It's so lovely to have you here with us.
Hi, it's great being here.
Thank you so much for joining us. I was stumbling upon saying all of that because you've got so much under your belt. Could you tell us a bit more about who you are and what it is you do?
Oh, I'm one of those people that actually early on like to job hop. Back in the day, you literally can go in and talk to the manager and say, hey, I want a job. And they'll say, okay. You didn't even have to have a resume. And I job hop a lot, actually, because I could. I had fun doing that. And then, about 20 years ago, I took a position at a nonprofit, and they recommended I should be a job developer or a career coach. And I'm like, what is that? And then they explained it to me, and I'm like, I'd be perfect at it. I think I've had every job out there. So that kind of led me onto this career path. And I absolutely love it. Love it. It's my passion. I definitely found my passion. And I want to help other people find that passion as well. And that's what gets me excited and get up in the morning and do my job and keep doing it better and better.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. And to hear that you did a lot of career hopping as well, I'm super curious. Can you tell me about some of the different jobs that you've had?
Oh, let's see. My very first job, I was 15. And the only reason why they hired me is because I was the only person to pass the math test. And it was just basic math, adding or subtracting. I don't think there was multiplying or dividing in that either. I scooped ice cream. And then when I turned 16, which was like 3 months later, then I was able to work at the registers. And then I was actually a professional ballerina and jazz dancer for many years, and danced with a lot of the famous 80s and 90s artists out there. And that was fun. Oh my goodness. A lot of retail, a lot of marketing, a lot of sales. I enjoy doing that. Okay, this is like, you're way too young for this one, but they didn't have really computers in the early 90s, like graphic design. Okay, that wasn't really a huge thing. And I would have to use a copy machine. I call it arts and crafts. So you would have to cut things out and put it on some sort of paper or whatever, and you make a copy of it, and then you add more and you make it to whatever you like it. And I actually loved doing that. So I like designing, creating, marketing, advertising. I think that's another reason why I like this is On the business side, I have to do all that stuff. And I love doing that stuff. I could get sucked into the zone for a little too long, actually. So.
Oh, that sounds really interesting. You sound a bit like the nomad of jobs. That's really fun.
Yeah, I've had an interesting and fun life, that's for sure. I can tell you what I don't like and what I do like. So,
Yeah. Well, I guess that puts you in a really great position to be able to help people in their jobs, having a
well,
plethora of experience within different jobs yourself.
absolutely. And it's fun when I go and talk to employers out there and learn about their business. I'm a lot of times I'm familiar with their business because I've
Yeah.
either worked in it at one point or I was affiliated at another point. So I really
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. And what have you found is like your favorite part about being a career coach?
My favorite part is seeing my clients' face, their eyes light up when they actually figure out what they want to do for the rest of their life. And it doesn't matter if you're in your 20s,
Mm.
30s, 50s, 80s. I've helped a 92-year-old get a job. He was retired, but he was bored. And let's find something he's going to enjoy for the rest of his life. All of us, for that fact. I really like it when the lights go on and you see it in their face. That to me gets me going, gets me excited. I want everybody to experience that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for that little introduction, but I'd love to get to know you more. With our section we've called Have You Met Anissa Brown? So here I'll just ask you a few get to know you questions. Yeah, so my first one for you is books. Do you have a favorite book or anything that you're reading at the moment?
Uh, Honestly, it's really hard for me to find time to read for pleasure. I read a lot of professional development and all that kind of stuff. But I do have a favorite author that I love because I like to escape. I prefer science fiction or medical fiction genres, things like that. Is Michael Crichton. I really enjoy his stuff. I like the fact that he's actual MD. He is a doctor, and he was able to put his own knowledge into his work and into the books that he created. And that's one of the reasons why I like it. I'm sure you've heard of Jurassic Park, all of them. The TV show
Yeah.
ER. Yeah, TV show ER. Use
Yeah.
that. Yep. So Twister, and there's just a whole bunch of other ones. So, but yeah, I like to escape
Nice.
from reality, so to speak.
Yeah, I find that books and movies are like the perfect way to do that. Do you find that these people that you read books from or watch movies about, are they like your role models or people that you find inspirational?
And yes, actually, in a way, what I really enjoy are famous women in history. And it could go back to, gosh, before Christ, okay, BC,
Hmm.
sometime like 595 BC. There are historical references of women who, throughout history, from the beginning of time to present, that actually are heroes in their own right. They either were, empress or queens or something, queen of the village, any of that kind of stuff. There were warriors out there, women warriors, especially with the Vikings and going back that far to the Roman era. I absolutely love that. And it goes all the way through history to Amelia Earnhardt. Uh, Helen Keller is another great one because I know sign language and I helped a lot of folks that were both hard of hearing, deaf, and blind or visually impaired. So she was an inspiration. I think all these strong women throughout history that stood up to the societal norms, if you will, and kept pushing through is actually what made it to where we are today. And
Yeah.
I love watching TV shows and documentaries. I prefer movies or TV shows that have more truth with a little bit of, fluff in it. But I like to really know that.
Yeah, yeah, and you've mentioned some really notable people as well, from history. Do you have like a favorite documentary or like a go-to show that you love?
Well, there's two little things, one that has nothing to do with it, the other one that does. Uh, I really like, if I can see anything with like Cleopatra in it, for example, I like to learn more about that because they're coming out with new truths all the time and new everything. And I'm just like, okay, how is this similar to what has been recorded in the past? Things come up in archaeology where they discovered some more information about, Cleopatra, for example. And now they're rewriting history because of the new artifacts that they're finding. Uh, and I absolutely love that. Absolutely do. And those are the shows I gravitate towards, as well as like the city of Rome. I love Italy. Anything European. I also like the United States as well, but European. I like to know more about their history, and that's what really gets me going. And it's, to me, it's just like an escape. Like I took a little trip to Europe for a few hours, and I'm now back into real life. And a lot of times I just want to go right back over there.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's what's really great about like books or watching movies or TV shows. It's such a great form of escapism, but now there are so many different types of content that's coming out where we can actually learn a lot about things that are happening around us. And I feel the exact same way about, new truths coming out, different little research projects that people are going on. And I've recently been really interested in the city of Atlantis. I know it's a myth and a legend, but I recently ordered a book and I'm waiting on that because I'm so curious about where that all started. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, perfect way to
You're
get
gonna love
into
it.
it.
Yeah, I'm going to
Oh,
say you're going to be really fascinated with everything. Yeah, I
yeah.
like that kind of stuff too.
Awesome. Yeah, I find it so
Love it.
interesting. And obviously, I've been introduced to it through like popular culture. It's been mentioned in like movies and stuff, but then it makes you think, like, oh, what's actually the history behind all that?
Exactly. And that's fun. And they're still trying to find it. And what's really nice is that you're going to find references to that book and other things that you discovered through your research with them trying to find the city of Atlantis, if you will. There's a lot of different shows they're going to try to find Atlantis. I'm like, oh, okay, let's see if they really do.
Yeah.
I don't know why I keep tuning in because I'm like, maybe this time. It's like finding Bigfoot. It's like maybe they're gonna see Bigfoot for real. Yep, nope. But still hopeful.
No, I am the exact same. Like, even though people are like, it doesn't exist, it's a myth, I'm like, oh, but
Yeah.
National Geographic just released this. Maybe they're going to go
Yes.
find it. So maybe
Yeah.
it exists.
Exactly. There's a lot of writings, old scriptures that say that a city like that did exist. Now, did it really represent everything that it's been written about, boofed up all throughout the years, or is it just, a regular city that had some great engineers and were able to create stuff that we can't even imagine in that time era?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just never
So
know.
fascinating
It
and so
really
much to
is.
know. Yeah. But thank you for sharing that with us. I feel like I could talk about Atlantis and different myths for like ever.
Me too.
But I reckon we can. Yeah, I know it's so interesting. And I feel like you can talk to so many different people about it. They'll have different perspectives. They'll be like, "Oh, it doesn't exist. Oh, it exists," and it's just a really great interplay.
I like to believe. What can I say? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm still going to
why
believe in
not?
Bigfoot unless you prove me wrong. But, I don't know if you
Yeah,
could prove me wrong. So, because they're still trying to find
exactly.
him.
Exactly. So I think it's better to be a believer than to shut it down.
Yeah, I do too. There's
So
so many little mysteries in life, or there's quite a few mysteries,
yeah.
but I mean, just things that really interest you. You want to keep them, alive and new to you, like kids and Santa
Yeah.
Claus. I hope nobody's watching. That's
We
that young.
won't say anything more. We won't say
Oh,
anything.
nope, nope. Magic of Christmas. Magic of Christmas.
It's
Huh.
still there. It's still there.
It is. I know. I still believe because of the magic of Christmas.
Beautiful. Well, let's jump into our interview questions now, if you're okay with that.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So, my first question for you, Anissa, is what does the psychology of career decision making entail?
Well, first, you need to identify and gather information and weighing your options and ultimately choosing and implementing one course of action. And what I mean by that is what is important to you value wise? What do you enjoy, which is your interests? And what do you do well? Those are your skills. And everybody out there has skills. Okay. I don't even care what they are. Okay. That's irrelevant for right now. Everybody has some sort of skills, soft skills and hard skills. Your values. What do you value most? What are you looking for? Not just in yourself, but maybe a company that you want to work for. Is it the company culture? How they treat their employees? And there's a whole list I can go through. Or is it their coworkers? People you got to look up to, people that are going to mentor you through this process. What's important to you? And the reason why I mention these three is because it kind of gives you a whole scope of what you're really looking for, and not just a job, but a career. I want to start people thinking of their career as they would their health and wellness. We are so, as a society, we are so into health and wellness right now, mental and physical. I want people to start thinking of their career that way. Check in with yourself. Get some diagnostics done. Get some lab results in if you need to. Start thinking of it as you would your own health and wellness, because it's just important. We spend over 92,500, I believe, don't quote me, but I'm pretty close, hours at work from the ages of 24 to 65. And that's a lot of hours that you're going to spend at work. And don't you want to enjoy what you're doing? And that's the whole scope of it. Values, interests, and your skills. How can we apply that to a career that you're going to absolutely love?
And I guess job satisfaction would come into that and tie everything together, would you say?
Oh, correct. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, they all kind of work together to become job satisfaction. That also helps increase your salary, asking for promotions, getting recognized at work, either by a pat on the back or awards, or maybe the end of the year bonus, things like that. Or they give you extra responsibilities, or maybe it's the corner office with a view. So that all comes into play.
Yeah. So, Anissa, I was just wondering why you think it's essential to understand one's motivations when it comes to making better decisions in their career.
Well, it can actually help you with making the right career choice. Motivation is really helps people with their goals and aspirations. So what motivates somebody to do something? That's what you want to find out. What is the driving force behind that? And that really helps you kind of not only hone in on your passions and your values, but harnessing that internal power that you have to follow the path that you want to take. In this particular case, the career. So what do they feel comfortable, not comfortable, but what are they motivated in? What are their interests? What excites them? And what I like to do with my clients is I want to find out what excites them, what motivates them, what are they passionate about? And let's turn that into a career. Let's figure that out. That's one portion of what I do. But, like I said earlier, my goal is that I want everybody to find their excitement in their career.
Yeah. And I guess motivation is really key. And what if you're already in your job and you find that you're motivated no longer by finding the right job for yourself, but now you're motivated by power or, the desire to be promoted and continue climbing that company ladder? How do you manage that sort of motivation?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. Sometimes you have to find, first of all, I would encourage people that are already in their job or career, ask your manager for some guidance or supervisor. Ask them for additional responsibilities or job shadowing in another area. That if you're interested, say like you're in sales and you're interested in more accounting or HR, maybe there's a way for you to kind of transition over there for, one day a week to kind of get an idea of what that side of the business looks like. And if that's something that you're interested in pursuing, there's a lot of ways of doing that. You can also do informational interviewing, which means that you have a list of questions that you want to know about from that particular job, industry, or even company. And you ask them certain questions to kind of get an idea of what that looks like. And then if you're able to like job shadow or spend a day hanging out in the office or in that area is another way to figure that out. But if you can't find it, that your boss is not really giving you any additional support, and I see that happen, unfortunately, too many times, that it's very sad, where they can't find additional responsibilities for you to do or have you go shadow somewhere else or work in another department, for a few hours a day. Try to find your own motivation within inside yourself. What will get you excited about doing this job? I know when I was at a nonprofit and I was working in what they called as a job connection center, and I would we had 10 computers, and of course, nobody knew how to use a computer when they came in. And then help it go with the resumes, interviewing, all that kind of stuff, right? So, but after years of doing that, I wasn't bored because the clients are absolutely interesting, and most of them, for the most part, were great. But it's like I needed new challenges. How do I come up with challenging myself? And at that particular time, there wasn't really a whole lot of ideas that were coming from my manager. So I had to come up with my own ideas. And sometimes I'd pitch them and sometimes I just kind of did them. Depending on what environment you're in. I don't recommend that for everybody. But for example, I wanted to have job fairs. And it took me a while to convince my boss, and actually I asked for forgiveness later. I actually scheduled one. And it was like the biggest hit ever. First job fair we had was a company from Phoenix, a staffing agency. And they were hiring for a recycling company here in Tucson that was just literally just opened. And we had, not only did it give us great publicity, okay, free advertising, as I like to put it, but we had 201 people show up on the first day. And keep in mind, this job connection is super tiny. I mean, people are outside, literally, because nobody can fit into the room. But we had live interviews there. And the second day, we had 198 people. And every single person was hired. Not all of, let me rephrase that one. Every position that they're hiring for, they're hired from the job fair that we had. And then my bosses started going, maybe she has something. And I'm like, you think? You think? Or I have little challenges or goals for myself. I just have to kind of challenge myself, even if nobody knows about it. Like I had co-workers at other job connection centers around the state, and we would kind of keep track of how many people we got permanent placements for. And our goal for the company was very small, in my opinion. But I'm like, okay, cool, I could do that in my sleep. But I wanted to beat all the other centers. They didn't know this at the time. But I really wanted to be the highest center with all the placements. So I'd have my own little challenges, and none of the other staff knew about it, not my manager, nobody. It was just me and my own personal goals and growth. So that's what I did, is every time I'd get everybody's numbers at the end of the month, I'm like, yes, did it again. Or like, darn. I think Tony beat me once out of the 8 years or something I was there.
That sounds really interesting, though, like just the way that you take control of your own position and your own motivations and ambitions.
Absolutely. You need to do that. You need to find those little driving mechanisms that will keep you going in the job you have now, or even make it a little better than how, when you started that position. How can you make it go to the next level? And I know there's always going to be red tape in between, but don't give up. Don't quit pitching the ideas. Just keep going. And if all else fails, maybe it's just not the right fit for you, and that's okay. It's okay if it's not the right fit for you anymore. There's probably, actually, I know there's another company out there that's going to appreciate you and what you have to offer and the skills you have to offer, that maybe it's time just, change companies or change careers. Transition is something else. Yeah. It's never too late.
Yeah, exactly. Never too late. I love that. And I feel like that's so important to remember. And I was just going to say, what about people out there who have, worked to get those tasks that they really want to be doing? They've been handed all these different opportunities for growth, but they've still got that mindset of like, I can do better. I want more. I want to be promoted. And it's that constant, thought pattern of how can I keep getting better? How can I get more and more and more? So how do people manage that sort of pressure that they impose on themselves?
Yeah, you want to be careful with the too much pressure on yourself. I don't want anybody to experience burnout. Please, whoever's listening to this, please keep in mind, if you know you're doing a good job, you probably are. Okay. Yeah, just mentioned it earlier. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. If you have certain goals, I tell people to keep track of their goals, and I'm sure you've heard this, and a lot of the viewers have as well. Keep track of your goals, and also keep track of time management. They go hand in hand, believe it or not. And if you have a larger goal, break it down into smaller goals, more achievable goals. Okay. This is something that you can do with yourself. Okay. And if you want an accountability partner to keep you accountable while you're doing this process, so you don't deviate from it, because a lot of us get busy in our day-to-day lives, that you don't want to forget those smaller steps of keeping up with your goals, because time goes by way too quickly. By doing that and holding yourself accountable in the smaller increments may help that person not feeling so overwhelmed or getting down on yourself. Never get down on yourself. If you know you're trying hard at your job, then maybe, and you're still not feeling what you should be feeling, then take another look at what you're doing. Do you really start asking yourself those hard questions? Do you really like doing what you're doing? Are you still passionate about what you're doing? what other things interest you? If you weren't doing this particular career, what other things interest you? What would you like to be doing? We change our careers multiple times throughout our lives. And just because I, want to become a marine biologist when I was 16 and 17, and then my mom said there's no way I could do that because school costs too much money. And they kind of blew that dream out of the water. But I shouldn't have listened, but that's a whole nother issue and a whole nother segment. But I didn't know any better at that time and at that age. So is it something that you're passionate about? And, when you were younger at another age that you're at, is it something that you've been just thinking about and you're interested in, like maybe doing in the future? There's ways of turning your passion or hobbies into a career that can make you money, get you the need that that feeling that you need in your own definition of success. And it doesn't always mean money. It doesn't always mean job title. It doesn't mean you have a corner office. Every person's definition on job success or career success differs from person to person. So what is that to you? And really think about it. No one's looking at you. No one's judging you. No one's doing anything to you. Really have a hard conversation with yourself to figure out what your next steps are.
Yeah. And I guess it's all about savoring your wins as well. Would you say being able to acknowledge that you've been doing a good job and be able to sit with, those sensations of being proud and satisfied instead of always being like, okay, did that, what's next?
Yes. Thank you. No, definitely be satisfied with every step that you take. Every step is a success. And you have to find measurements for that. Figure out what those measurements are for you. What will make you happy if you succeed at this? What do you need to get to that level? Is it okay you don't make it to that level by a certain date? Yes, it is. Because stuff happens in life. And it's not for you to drop that goal or ambition. It's maybe you just need to work, a little bit longer to get to that ultimate goal. But it doesn't mean that you're a failure and it doesn't mean you're giving up. But what does is not completing that goal, letting it and you could change the goal, by the way, you could shift it as well. And that's not failure or anything like that negative. It's just keep going. That's the key. It's just keep going. Okay, I didn't lose those 10 pounds last month, but I'm going to maybe eat a little healthier and not eat as much carbs, whatever the case may be. And maybe I'll get on the exercise bike one extra day a week and see if that's going to shift. And if any of us have tried losing weight, I'm telling you, the older you get, the harder it gets. And talk about trying to stay motivated during that process can be very hard. Trust me. But, it's always that hope that I will make a difference, an impact to get to my goal. And that's what I want you to look past is that hope. If you are doing the steps, eventually you will get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like that's such a good way to put it, because there's a lot of hope in what we do in our careers as well. We can't always see it right away once we're in that job. And it's about having trust, I guess, that we will get to where we need to be within the right time and the right space as well.
Absolutely. And timing is everything. It really is. And it makes me cringe a little bit to even say that out loud. But yeah, timing is like, I think I had a flashback from when my mom told me that or something. But yeah, timing is everything. Maybe it's just not the right time.
Yeah.
For you to, transition into another career or open up a business. take a hard look at yourself, figure out what's holding you back. Is there anything holding you back? Maybe it's just the timing. Maybe you just have to take a deep breath and jump into the deep end and see what happens. People going to always find a job. Is it going to be their dream job or just a bridge, as I call it, to get some, to pay the utilities and get food on the table and mortgages and rent? You can always find a job doing that. Heck, I mean, in the United States, you can work at least in Tucson, Arizona, and our wages are not that great, by the way. You could go to In-N-Out Burger and get paid like $25 an hour. I mean, and minimum wage is $13.85, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah,
wow.
Precisely. Yeah. So, of course, the cost of living is a lot lower. However, $13.85 versus $20. I'll work in a fast food place if I make $25 an hour. I'm just saying, a lot of times you can do that. It's just a bridge to get to where you want to go eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. And why do you think people have that mentality of, I want more, I want better, and they're constantly just fueled by that, but find themselves not really getting anywhere?
I think they keep looking past where they're at. I don't think they are really enjoying and focusing on exactly where they're at in their career or maybe in their life. Maybe there's something else going on within their life that they're just not happy with. And that kind of, filters into other aspects of your life. And a lot of times it does with your career, unfortunately. If you are fighting with your significant other or a family member or your kids are just driving you nuts or whatever, you bring that into any type of environment you go into. Regardless of work or an exercise place, it doesn't matter. If you go for coffee and you hear a kid screaming and you just left a house full of screaming kids, do you think that's going to be annoying to you? Probably. So it just bleeds in. Everything bleeds in. So take a hard look. Be honest with yourself. What are you looking for? And don't be so hard on yourself. What I do, and it actually works out really well, and it depends on if your work environment has you do them or not. We call them, a lot of companies here in the States call it GNOs, goals and objectives. All right. And I actually worked for a company. Oh my God, I hated doing that. I really did. Hate it. Every month I was like, oh crap, another report, right? Just what we all need. And I didn't realize the impact those reports are. Zero idea. So it monitors your progress every month, okay? Which is a great way to see what you have accomplished. We all forget. I forget all this stuff. I mean, I was in an interview like, oh, you won Woman of the Year and this and that. And I'm like, I did? I'm like, what? Did I? I'm like, no. Sometimes we get so busy and then something's like right here and you're looking right past it. You're missing everything that's right here. And you can keep track every month of what you're doing, regardless of who's asking for it. You are asking for it, okay? You're going to be surprised when you revisit that month, the previous month, on how much you have accomplished. Measure everything that you're doing. And it could be in life. It could be at your work. It could be anything. You'd be really surprised on what you have done and put everything in there. For example, my GNOs consist of like how many people came in through the Job Connection Center. How many people did I place? How many employers did I outreach? How many job fairs did I have? How many workshops did I have? How many of those did I create? Every month it was like all this stuff. And I added stuff that even my management didn't even want, just because I wanted to track those numbers. And let me tell you, every single time I looked at it, I forget how many people I'd helped. I'm like, okay, we had 800 people come to the center this month. And 3 of them got jobs. Or 300 of them got jobs. And I'm like, whoa, it doesn't even feel like that. I thought it was just, maybe 100 people that came through. You don't realize it because you're really there and you're multitasking, and you're doing your job, and, boom, 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 fast paced all day long. And then when you get a moment to decompress, you start all over again.
Yeah.
And you forget about all the people that you help and how many people you've actually helped. And it's nice reflecting on that and actually seeing the progress that you have accomplished every month. And that keeps you into the here and now, but it also is your own reward and motivation every month, is keeping track of those numbers. They're huge. When I started my business in 2019, I'm the one who jumped into the deep water. I was trying to figure out, for some reason, I wanted numbers to let people know, like, how many people did I actually help since I've been in this career, and how many workshops did I do, and how many job fairs did I have, how many people attended the workshops, how many people, I want to know all these numbers. And guess what? I pulled up all of my GNOs from the last, 16, 17 years, literally, and started adding everything up. And I could not believe the numbers. I thought, okay, I know this is simple math, but I must be doing this wrong. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, literally. It was an obscene amount of people. I've helped over 40,000. I was approaching about 45,000 people in jobs and placements. And I was like, really? I couldn't believe it. And I forget how many job fairs and workshops and all that stuff that I contributed. And I just couldn't believe it. I was flabbergasted on all of that and super proud of myself. And you know what? I would never have even come close to that number ever in a million years if it wasn't for a piece of paper telling me I did this amount every month.
Yeah.
And that's just a nice little reminder for people.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like it's so easy to get caught up in just doing your job and not actually realizing all the efforts and all the resources and everything that you're using in order to accomplish all that. So I feel like no one really thinks about what they do when they go to work. They just come back after a day of work and they're like, okay, I went to work. That is what I did. But like there's so much more to than just going to work.
It really is. It really is. And the accomplishments, write them down, small, large, it doesn't matter. The accomplishments, that's what I tell people when I help them with the resume. Okay, we know your duties, but let's turn that into what accomplishment it is. Okay. So if you saw, actually, I was talking to this kid, and a nonprofit that I volunteer at, and I was giving some ideas for a resume, and I'm like, okay, you work at Peter Piper Pizza. That's great. Customer service. I know you handle cash, you talk to customers, you probably make the pizzas. I was going through all of his job duties. I'm like, okay, what's going to make a difference to the employer is if you add numbers. So how many people do you think you see in a shift that you help, that come in and order pizza and you have to help them out? Okay, great. Now, how many pizzas do you think you've made in a shift? Add that up. How much money cash handling did you actually deal with? How much money did you deal with in a shift? You start adding those accomplishments. I would see 100, 150 customers a day, provided excellent customer service, and then you just go on with a little bit of the more job duties that you do, but it's giving the employer a vision of what you have done. Yes, they could picture you at a counter taking people's orders, but let's jazz it up a little bit. Not lying whatsoever. Don't ever lie on a resume. Don't ever. But now, if you say you see 150 people in an 8-hour shift, okay, Now I'm kind of seeing like the place is bustling and lots of people come and going, and you have to multitask and you're helping this person, that person. You're ringing people up, ringing people out, blah, 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 and doing pizzas and handing them pizzas, all this stuff. Now in my head, I have a visual on actually how many people you help, and you have to stay right on top of it. And that's the same kind of story I want to convey to everybody. You don't realize what you do in a day-to-day basis until you actually start really thinking about it, breaking it down, and tracking those numbers. And it's a good way to motivate yourself.
Exactly. And I feel like all those individual things that you're doing, like the numbers adding up, those are decisions that you're making for your career as well. You're choosing to take on that task. That's a career decision that you're making. You're choosing to evaluate what you're doing. That's another decision that you're making, to take accountability for what you're doing, because you want to see progress. You want to see how you're moving forward.
Yeah, because the only person that's really going to recognize that, and the only person that matters, is yourself.
Yeah.
You can't count on your bosses or supervisors or the company, not anymore, to give you the recognition that you need. Okay. If you're lucky enough to have a boss and employer that way, oh my gosh, you are so lucky. And I wish more of my clients, and I wish I had that as well. You're so lucky to have that. But you have to be your own cheerleader and motivator, and you just have to prove to yourself. That's all you need to do. And then when it's your annual reveal, this is great. Oh, I brought in notebooks. Oh my goodness, like three ring binders. Okay. For my annual review, I would keep everything that I've ever, I created or helped build up the job connections to what they are. I started writing them and building them up and coming up with programs and this and that, so on and so forth. And I would keep track of everything, even the flyers I'd make for job fairs. Literally just everything, to show that, hey, I went that extra mile, but I want them to see, because they're not around to see what I do. They're not with me every day. I'm separate site than all my managers. So they may check in on me once a month, but that's about it, for an hour. And then they leave really quickly because it gets busy. But I would bring in binders, literally, with everything that I've done for that year. And it would help me get an increase on my salary or a bonus. And that's what I used. And it's just a great tool to have as well.
Yeah, for sure. And we've been talking a lot about career decisions and motivation and how to manage taking accountability. But how can we focus on striking a balance between pursuing our careers, but also our, making practical career decisions? Because we can have really high ambitions, but those decisions we make might not be so practical.
Yes. So I guess it depends on your definition of practical.
Whoa. I mean, for example, it could be that you just got a job and you're a few months in, but you're already looking for a promotion because you're really keen to just keep getting involved in your industry. I wouldn't say that's considered necessarily a practical career decision, but you've got these ambitions and you want to somehow go for them.
Yeah, well, you want to be practical, but don't be in too much of a rush. So if you are just starting a job, please keep in mind that it takes a while for you to get established in any role. In any role that you do, and it really doesn't really matter how many years you've been in that industry or profession, you still need to prove yourself to the employer and to your bosses that you can do the job. Okay. I do not recommend my clients going in after a first week on the job or a few months in the job and already asking for promotions. I would encourage you to find out what steps, how does it work getting promotions within this company? Figure that out. And you don't have to talk to your actual boss. You can become really good friends and allies with human resources. Human resources are great. By the way, they are a bunch of fun people. I know, hang out with them all the time. Okay. If you want to party, hang out with HR. I'm just saying. You didn't hear that from me. But yeah, think of them as a person. They're not there to fire you. They're there to help you out, as well as the company. So be careful what you say to them, especially on the clock. But ask around, what are the requirements for a promotion? How often do they give promotions? Ask them about, hey, by any chance, do you know how long the person had the job before me? And, a lot people will talk about that. They'll say a little too much usually. Fact find. Figure out what steps you need to take. And you don't always have to go to your supervisor for those details. And then you can set yourself up for realistic goals. I like shooting for the stars. Okay, I'm not going to lie. I like shooting for the stars, but I also have to bring myself down so I can reach the stars. First, I have to start with a foundation and then maybe build a ladder, and keep going up that way till hopefully maybe one day I can reach a star. But I can't just, stand up and reach for it because I'm not close to reaching the stars. So how do I get myself to point A to point B? And I really want people to think about that. A lot of times people are too much in a rush and too impatient to take the steps that are needed to be successful. And it doesn't matter what position you're doing. And this is also for non-career life choices as well. Just keep on the path, keep what you're doing, keep track of everything, ask questions. And if you don't feel like it's the right fit, then start putting out some feelers and seeing what is the right fit. I never recommend this. It's always easier to find a job when you have a job. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So I don't recommend you quitting the job, even though I had a client do that last week, which really irked me. That's like the second job I got him. He's like, yeah, I just got mad and quit. And I'm like, oh. I'm like, you sure you want to still keep saving me? Because call me when you need help or you're frustrated. So
yeah.
But I think I answered your question, did I?
Yeah, you definitely did. Thank you.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we can jump into our practices and habits debrief section here. So thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. And I loved how we were able to, tailor it to different people in different stages of their career, just getting a job, you're in your job, or you're at that point where you're seeking a promotion. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
Awesome. Well, we've got our next section here. So basically, I'm just going to be asking you, Anissa, your personal approaches to career decision making. So my first question for you is, what is a practice that you personally use to improve your career decision making?
I actually do assessments at least once a year. Sometimes a little bit more, my own assessment. So I do a career assessment, Myers-Briggs, that's a personality test. I do my own assessments just because I am curious and nosy. Literally. No, it kind of keeps me on track. So a lot of these tests, and I give them all to my clients, it gives me and them an idea of where they're at, where their passions are in their career. Like this one particular career assessment test, it matches all the likes that you have to the questions they're asking you. And then that put it into a career that matches those likes. And every year or every few years you change. What you may have liked a year ago may not be what you like to do now.
Yeah.
And it gives you a whole nother type of assessment. And I've given the same assessment at 2 different times with clients. One client's like, I'm not sure if maybe I should have answered this way or that way. And I'm like, you could do it again. It's not a big deal. See if you get some different answers or career choices. And what I really like is at the end of it all, it will let me know things that I've liked in the past, jobs I've actually have done in the past that I like, as well as what I majored in college, speech and hearing sciences, and things that I am currently doing now, as well as future stuff that I may not have thought about career-wise. And I just like keeping track of that because things always shift and change. And maybe there's an element, even though I know this is my career and I'm set and I absolutely love it. And of course, I don't see a need of changing that, but what I can't answer the future. I wish I could. No, I don't. No, I take that. Nope. No, I don't know where I'm going to be in 20 years. Career-wise, I'm hoping I still have the same passion as I do today as a career coach, but I like to use that knowledge if it brings up like digital marketing, for example. Okay. And I'm like, oh, how can I incorporate that into what I'm doing now? Either hobby-wise or career-wise. How can I incorporate that? And it doesn't matter if you're self-employed or not. If it's something that you can add some of the things that you probably haven't thought of or you haven't thought of in a long time, how can you apply that to what you're doing now? And it could just be, it's like sprinkles on a cake or something. And you're also gaining more skills, abilities, experience, and you're doing something that you are interested in or you want to learn more about, or it's just another passion you can throw it to your job. And I like to keep track of that. Where am I with my personalities? I do a check-in with myself every year. And I encourage all my clients to do that as well. It's a whole decision-making process, and it's ongoing, and you do it throughout your professional life. And I want people to remember that as it's ongoing. And I even have people who retired that would like to do something, but they don't want to really go back into accounting or whatever their career choice was because they're retired. They don't want to have to do that, but they want to do something that's meaningful or fun, or let's turn a hobby into a job, or maybe start your own business. There's all different dynamics that you can look into, which is a lot of fun. And I like discovering that for myself as well as for my clients.
Yeah. And Anissa, do you find that there are any challenges to doing these yearly evaluations or any hurdles that you come across?
Well, probably, and I probably shouldn't say this out loud, time. I'm really good with time. I have to set it's at the same time every year. I do it. And I do it when I'm usually not at work because I get sucked into the work void, as I call it, and get a lot hyper focused. I do it on a Sunday, and I usually like to do it towards the end of the year to check in with myself. Where am I at and how I'm going to pursue the year that's coming up.
Yeah.
And I usually do it after the holidays and before New Year's, kind of in between that is usually my downtime. And it's a way for me to check in and see where I'm going to go in the future. And what kind of changes can I make? What can I pivot to? Are there other certifications or degrees that I want to go after this year? What are my goals? And then I kind of map everything out. And I recommend everybody do that. Just check in with yourself to see where you're at. And the assessments kind of help you get that momentum going.
Yeah.
And that's always nice. And then also look back on what you have done that year. at least the last few months. Give yourself credit for what you have accomplished, because like we spoke about earlier, we get so involved with our everyday life. We all have a place of employment to go. It doesn't matter if it's virtual or, off-site, out of your house, home. But every time it's like you go to work, you come home, you take care of the family, and then you're lucky to get a shower in, hopefully really lucky, get a shower in. And then you go to sleep, and then it starts all over again. And we get stuck in the same pattern over and over and over again. And then we literally forget the little and the big accomplishments that you have accomplished that week and that month and that year. And it's nice to revisit that. And it's easier if you have those goals and objectives there to kind of, it's a low report once a month. There's 12 of them. Just kind of go through them, and really, this is your moment to pat yourself on the back and really take in what you have accomplished. And now, what do I want to do? This is where motivation comes in. Okay. You're motivating yourself for the next year. What are you going to do next year? What are your goals? What accomplishments do you want to do this year? Okay, I did this last year. Now, I want to accomplish this. I want to help more people this year than I did last year. And then you could kind of set up a little system on how that's going to happen. Okay. And if you say you want to see 5 extra clients every week, and my deadline is February. Okay. If it doesn't happen, maybe you're seeing 1 or 2. That's 1 or 2 more than you had previously. So pat yourself on the back for that. Give yourself kudos for that. And I say, okay, I'll push it out 2 more months. And then we'll see if I'm at 5 by April. Okay. And if you get 3, oh my gosh, that's 3 more than you had the month before that. This is great. Just keep doing it, because I guarantee you by, the end of the year, you're going to be at 5 or 6 or 7 more clients a year. If you keep pushing. Just because you didn't make that April goal of 5, you know what? If you do it that year, you're a winner. Absolute winner.
Yeah. And I guess that's how it improves your productivity as well, by taking the time to do these evaluations, to take a step back and look at what you've done. You can then set yourself up better to be more productive with your time and your resources, and where your efforts are going to be directed in the following year.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the more that you're juggling in life, the more that you forget. We just have just too much to remember in everyday life. And then, of course, the older you get, more forgetful you get. So having a writing is always good, as my dad used to tell me.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for that, Anissa. That brings us to our last little section for today, which is our open mic. So here I'm going to extend it over to you to talk about anything that you're passionate about. It could be our topic today, or it could be about genuinely anything you'd like. So the floor is all yours, Anissa.
Ooh, how long do I have to talk to?
You can just go for it.
All righty. Professionally, I want to create a program within my company on helping folks with ADHD or ADD, attention deficit disorder, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and their careers. I know a lot of folks, and I'm one of them, that have ADD, and how to navigate through that process. And I remember the struggles that I had growing up and not knowing what it was, and also the struggles I have today and how to overcome those struggles. And I want to be able to get back and help other folks. So many people have ADHD, or I think that's what they call it now. ADD no longer exists in the DSM, by the way, which annoys me because that's what I was diagnosed with. But apparently I'm not diagnosed with that anymore. But I know, the future.
Scary.
So, yeah, whole nother segment.
Mm.
But I really want to really help clients that have ADHD to really overcome some of those barriers and how to kind of shift. You can still be a productive adult regardless of any type of limitations or barriers that you put on yourself. And I want to be able to show people how to do that. And the second part of in 2024 that I want to do is I want to get into more schools, high schools, middle schools, and talking to the kids about their career, what they want to do. Start having them really think about it. And because especially in high school, if they're going to continue on with higher education, what steps do you need to take to do that? A lot of people don't want to take out student loans or, because of, low income status, they may not qualify for certain things for college. So what can they apply for? What kind of scholarships are available? What kind of federal loans are available? What kind of programs in your area do you qualify for? Let's get you to point A to point B. Or if it's trades, let's figure out what trade you're interested in, and let's figure out who's offering those training classes and those certifications. I really want kids to start thinking about their career, really thinking about their career as young as possible. And I want to get into more schools and start letting our youth know more about what they can do when they grow up. And then personally, I don't know if it's going to happen this year or not. I'm hoping it does. I want to get a pilot's license.
Oh, wow.
I know. I would like to learn how to fly.
That is so cool.
Yes. So I met this lady who also would like to do that. And we're roughly about the same age, I think just a year apart. And we both always wanted to do that. That's been on our bucket list, so to speak. And because of time and money and all that kind of stuff, that always throws up barriers to accomplishing certain dreams that you may have. We're trying to figure out a way to do that. And we figured out, and she's my accountability buddy. So we'll go together and we'll be in the same classes and doing everything the same and, making sure that we sign up for it and we'll actually do it. Instead of just talking about it, let's put action into place.
Yeah.
And let's just do it.
Yeah.
So,
well, even the program you were talking about and even the personal endeavor you're talking about, these are all decisions and career decisions. And the more you've been talking, the more I've been realizing that everything you choose to do is a decision you're making towards like your future and where you want to be and where you see yourself. So all these little things are just so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there's just so many things and I know a person can't do everything. We were talking earlier, we love historical stuff and I like anthropology and archaeology and paleontology and all that kind of stuff. And I really would like I'm like, oh my gosh, how cool would it be to go on an archaeological dig and start digging stuff up and living in Egypt for years on end and finding all this neat stuff about the Egyptians and the Palestinians and all that kind of stuff, the Romans. I mean, how awesome would that be? I'm like, did I miss my career? Did I not? And like, you know what? Maybe I could turn that into a hobby.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I took up scuba diving. That's a new hobby I took up this year.
Wow.
And I absolutely love that. So I want to do more of that. So there's, certain things that you always thought about you wanted to do. And my daughter is 25 and is getting married next year. And she's almost done with her PhD program. And she lives in Dallas, Texas. And I'm kind of like getting my second wind. And I'm like, okay, I can do all this different stuff that I wasn't able to do. I can do it now, and I want to do it while I still physically and mentally am able to do it. So,
yeah, exactly. And I feel like a lot of people question themselves and they're like, oh, I'm really into this specific thing, but I don't know if it should be my career, but then they often forget that that could just be a hobby and that doesn't have to be your career. And it could be vice versa as well. A hobby could turn into a career. So I feel like the more you explore, and like you're doing as well, the more you put yourself out there, the more you're just going to realize what you want to be doing and who you want to shape up to be.
Yeah, we're only here on this planet for a short period of time. And I want to see as much and learn as much as I possibly can. And the older I get, the more I realize that. And, just saying, oh, maybe next year, guess what? I don't have that many next years left.
Oh, don't say that.
I know. Thank you. But really, if you think about it, it's like, okay, I might have another good 25, 30 years if I'm lucky, being able to get around without a walker and, enjoy myself. And if I keep putting it off to the next year, to maybe when I have more money saved, maybe, I get more established in my career. I hear all these excuses, including from myself, but everybody out there, just being a little too practical sometimes because you had to be. Now start trying to push the comfort zone a little bit and explore a little bit more. You don't have to do anything drastic like quit your job and, backpack around Europe for a year, unless you really want to and you're able to do that. I'd say invite me along. I'll try for a little while. But you don't have to do anything drastic. Let's start off with maybe spending time in Europe for, 2 weeks or a month and see what happens. But at least you're out there trying something and you're seeing something different.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a perfect note to end today's episode on. So thank you so much, Anissa, for joining us and talking about, Atlantis to career decisions to, everything with me. So it's been really enjoyable. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. And now for our listeners who want to find out a bit more about you, where can they go?
Oh, gosh. Any of my social media sites. You can find me on social media. You could go on my website. Are you posting that on Instagram or?
Yeah, we definitely will.
Okay, perfect. So I don't have to spell it out for you guys. So. How detailed do you want me to get into that?
Perfect. Well, don't worry about that. We'll have all of Anissa's details in the description below. So that's all good.
You can contact me anyway, and I'm happy to, give you some pointers, whatever you need. I'm here for you.
Oh, amazing. Well, thank you so much again. And to everyone watching, thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. You have been listening to Work in Progress, the Personal Productivity Science Insights podcast produced by the Life Management Science Labs. Listen to episodes from LMSL's 10 Life Management Perspectives on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or other podcasting apps on your smartphone. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps other people find it and us grow to bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website, pp.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Joanna. Thanks for tuning in.